Hi dear followers, hope you're doing fine. Welcome to this new video. Today I'm going to try to answer the maximum of questions possible, and I think that one video is not enough to answer all your questions. I have just selected some important questions in order to answer them, and I'm going to make another video in which I'm going to actually answer other questions. So before I start, I'd like to tell you that I'm going to do my best in order to film a real class session, and I prefer that is going to be grammar lesson. So I'm going to film a real grammar session class, authentic class, in order to see all the steps I go through while presenting a grammar lesson with my pupils. How do I interact with my pupils? How do we produce output and input? So the first question that I've chosen is actually related to the sequence map. It means how are you going to follow the sequence map? And what is a sequence map? A sequence map is the order of the lessons. All the lessons are going to teach are presented in the sequence map. What are you going to start with and what are we going to do by the end of the sequence? And of course, we have 4 skills and 2 sub-skills. The 4 skills are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And the sub-skills are grammar and pronunciation. We're going to teach all this in one sequence, but how to follow the sequence? Believe me, even if you see a ready-made sequence map, you can change it according to the level of your pupils, according to yourself, according to your methodology, according to your logical way of seeing things. It's not compulsory to stick to one sequence map. No, we can change. For example, if you have a ready-made sequence map, you can change it accordingly. If you see that your pupils are really weak at listening, you can present more listening tasks. If you see that your pupils are just really good at listening, you can omit some listening tasks. If you see that there is too much listening in your sequence map, you can omit some listening tasks. And I think that personally, our pupils are not really good at listening. We can improve and enhance their listening in another way, but I think that while presenting an important lesson, for example, presenting vocabulary of house, for example, for second year or school or anything, just try to not present listening tasks because they won't concentrate with you. So I prefer to present a reading task. It's much better than presenting a listening task. So it depends on your pupil's preference, it depends on your pupil's styles, it depends on your pupil's strategies of learning. So as I said, we have in the sequence map skills and sub-skills. Of course, we cannot start teaching them grammar without creating a context, because as you may know, the competency-based approach is based on the inductive ways of learning, but the context should be presented at first. It means you cannot teach grammar separately. For example, you're going to teach past simple. Hi, my dear students or pupils. Today we are going to learn the past simple tense. No. You have to ask your pupils questions. While asking questions, you are creating context. What did you do yesterday? What time did you sleep yesterday? What did you watch on TV yesterday? So here you are creating context. What did you do last summer? And so on and so on. So, that's why I say that context is very important. You should start with listening to present the context to your pupils and to present the new vocabulary for them. And then you move to grammar. For example, you can teach one listening lesson. Then after that, you teach grammar. This grammar lesson, you have to be intelligent, should be related to listening. It means I have enough data in my listening to present the grammar context. For example, if my listening was about description, for example, describing house, or using possessive pronouns or possessive adjectives, it means my grammar lesson is going to be about that. So you have to be intelligent. Then after grammar, you can present another listening lesson in which you prepare your pupils for the new context for the grammar lesson. So your lessons are related. Each lesson depends on another lesson, especially listening and grammar. We have listening and grammar, then another listening, then grammar, then we have speaking. You're going to ask me, what is speaking? Speaking is the last phase of listening. It means listening and speaking are like they work together. Listening is a receptive skill your pupils are going to receive, and speaking is a productive skill. It means I am against those teachers who present a written activity by the end of a listening activity. I prefer to present speaking, oral, communicative activity in which your pupils are going to communicate orally. And that's why speaking works with listening. Receptive, productive. So that's why we have to integrate speaking, which is neglected by most teachers, in our teaching. Then grammar, then another listening lesson, then grammar, then we move to reading. You are going to ask me about pronunciation. Pronunciation is integrated in one of the lessons. It means you can integrate it in listening, you can integrate it in grammar, you can integrate it in reading. You are free. And I prefer that you integrate pronunciation in a listening lesson because your pupils are going to listen and of course they're going to pronounce and utter words. So they are related. Of course, for example, for grammar, you can teach one lesson of grammar after listening, for example, and another lesson of grammar after reading. Why not? You can integrate a grammar lesson in a reading lesson. For example, in my text, I have the forms that I need in order to teach my grammar lesson. Yes, I did it so many times. I taught grammar after reading, and it was very successful. So you have to be intelligent while switching from one lesson to another lesson. And as I said, each lesson depends on another, especially grammar. You have to think twice before you present your grammar lesson because it is related to the previous lesson. And if it's not highly 100% related to the previous lesson, you have to create context related to the listening and related to the topic of the sequence. I received many questions related to I think and write and I learned to integrate lesson. Many teachers say that I learned to integrate is like I think and write. Other teachers say they are different. So I think that I learned to integrate and I think and write lesson are different in some points and similar in many points. The first common point that they share is the fact that I learned to integrate and I think and write involve both writing. So your pupils are going to write in this phase, in these lessons. But in I learned to integrate, for me, and personally, that's what I do in class, it's a preparation for I think and write. It's a preparation. It means that the instruction is just the same, but the difference is in the method of writing and the way of writing, and of course the social aspect of writing. I'm going to talk briefly about I learned to integrate and I think and write lesson because I have already posted many videos in which I showed you how to present both lessons. So I learned to integrate is just a preparation for I think and write lesson. You're going to teach your pupils how to write. You're going to set the task of each member. You're going to give some hints. You're going to give some to give the plan of the writing. You're going to guide your pupils in their pieces, and I think and write lesson should be done individually. Your pupils are going to invest what they have already learned in I learned to integrate in order to write about a certain topic, and of course the topics should be similar, like related. So, for example, if your pupils are going to write in I learned to integrate about their physical description, they introduce themselves, they talk about their school, family, and then they describe themselves. In I think and write, they're going to, for example, describe member of family. That's why I said that the principle is the same, just there is a slight difference in the instruction, and like the methodology is not the same. Writing in groups and writing individually is not the same, and of course in the correction, in the feedback, is not the same. In I learned to integrate, your pupils are going to switch papers, they switch pieces in order to be corrected by their classmates, and I think and write, you are going to pick up the papers and correct them using the correction code. I'm going to leave the link of both lessons in the book. You see the lessons with more details. Another important question that I have actually received from my followers is related to the learning objective. It's a very good question, and of course the learning objective is the most important part of teaching. Actually, if you enter a class and you're going to present a lesson and you don't know what do you want your pupils to be able to do by the end of the lesson, I don't see the purpose of teaching actually. So you have to know what your pupils are going to reach by the end of the lesson. I'm talking about the objective of the lesson, not of the sequence. So stating the objective clearly and make it feasible and doable is actually not a difficult task, but it has to be done to be really careful while stating the objective of the lesson. Why? When you state the objective, the most important thing you should bear in mind is the verb they are going to use after will be able to. By the end of the lesson, my pupils will be able to what? If you say my pupils will be able to know, or my pupils will be able to understand, or my pupils will be able to notice, it's not an objective, because your pupils are going to understand, maybe 20-30%. Your pupils are going to know, and actually they are going to know, even the weak one. Your pupils are going to maybe remember. Yes, they do remember. But what are they going to produce? In the competency-based approach, your pupils have to produce something. There should be some output by the end of the lesson. So the verb that are going to use after will be able to is very, very important. If you say, by the end of the lesson, my pupil or my pupils will be able to say, or my pupils will be able to write, or my pupils will be able to produce, or my pupils will be able to describe, or to speak, my pupils will be able to form, able to use, my pupils will be able to tell. This is productive. These verbs are productive. So by the end of the lesson, your pupils are going to be able to describe a house. This is very good. By the end of the lesson, your pupils are be able to use possessive pronouns while talking about their things or their clothes or whatever. This is very good. Your pupils are going to be able to for example, form adjectives out of nouns. This is very good. So this is feasible. Next question was actually related to the initial situation. Do we have to write the initial situation in their copybooks? Do they have actually to write the initial situation in their copybooks? And whether it is compulsory. Do we have to present the initial situation by the end of the sequence? Many teachers have not actually understood what is an initial situation, and they do their best in order to avoid it. Why this is a real problem? Because without the initial situation, your pupils are not be able to know the topic of the sequence. They won't be able to know the objective of the sequence. They won't be able to know what are they going to write by the end of the sequence, and this is a problem. So the initial situation is going to help you to make your learners reach these 3 points. I prefer to explain to your pupils, dear pupils, this initial situation is like الوظائف الانطلاقية in other subjects. And what is an initial situation? It's a context that we have created for our pupils in order to know what are we going to talk about in the sequence. And you're going to ask your pupils, are you able to write something now? For example, you say, your English EPAL wants to know about your family. Write him an email in which you introduce your family. My dear pupils, are you able now to write something about your family in English? Are you going to say, no, miss? So the initial situation is a problem because you cannot write about your family. So when are we going to solve this problem? By the end of the sequence. After you learn family members, after you know present simple, after you know this and this, you're going to write something. A good question that I have received is actually how to make a lesson learner-centered. And this is a good question. And of course, nowadays, teaching in the 21st century is not more like teaching in the past. Your learner is highly involved in the learning process. He is active, and you are just passive. You are just a guide. So your pupil is going to reach the rule and is going to guess the topic of the lesson, or is going to guess the title of the lesson by himself or by themselves. So, for example, in a grammar lesson, when you teach grammar, for example, you are going to teach past simple tense. Before you, of course, after the warm-up, you're going to write the examples that you're going to write on the board are going to be related to your pupils' answers. For example, in the past simple tense, in grammar, you're going to write the date, sequence 1, for example, lesson, I don't know the number, and you leave the title empty. When you leave the title empty, it means that your learners are starting to get involved in the learning process. They have started to guess what is the title of the lesson. This is learner-centered. And the examples are going to present. For example, you have preparation. You're going to prepare your pupils. What did you eat yesterday? What did you do last summer? Where did you go? Where did you travel? Etc. What did you buy? So here we are preparing the floor for our pupils. And then their answers are going to help me to write the examples. It means I'm going to write the examples of my pupils on the board. So this is learner-centered. Then I'm going to interact my pupils, making them induce the rule by themselves. Of course, I'm going to interact with my pupils. I write the examples and then I ask, where is the subject? Where is the verb? What is the form of this verb? What is the tense? Why is it in the past simple? What has actually pushed me to write it in the past? And so on and so forth. So this analysis is going to be an interaction between you and your pupils, and you're going to make them by themselves induce the rule. And then when you analyze and you isolate and you you make them induce the rule, you're going to make them guess the title. Miss, the title is past simple tense, so they're going to remember what they have said. They're going to remember the lesson very well because they were very involved. They were really interacting with you. Besides, in the practice phase, you are going to make your pupils work in pairs or in groups. This is very highly learning centered method. And of course, you are going just to guide your pupils and correct them where necessary. So that's what we call learning-centered. And it's the same for listening. For example, when they listen, you're going to, for example, you ask questions interacting with them. What is the listening about? What did you understand? Who was talking to whom? What is the topic about? So it's like a daily interaction teacher-learner. So if there is an interaction, this means that it has nothing to do with lecturing, because lecturing is the classical way of teaching. Today we're going to talk about this and that, and your pupils are going to be passive and just listening to you. But when you interact with your pupils, you are in the learner-centered learning. Another important question is related to the time management. Many teachers are complaining about the time. So, of course, you have to know that the level of your pupils is or has an impact on the time you spend in each session. Of course, you don't have to rush because your pupils have to understand this is your objective, but you don't have to waste much time, especially in certain lessons. For example, in grammar lessons, since it is the one which is supposed to take too much time, so in grammar you have to because personally speaking, when I see that the grammar lesson is important and it should be it has to be really long, I just spent 2 sessions. For example, present continuous second year, I spent 2 sessions, 2 hours. Since it is a very important lesson and it is the basis of English and they haven't dealt with it last year. So I spent 2 sessions, and it depends on the lesson. For example, a present simple for second year, you don't have to devote 2 sessions for it because they have already dealt with it last year. So you have to be intelligent while presenting your lessons and while devoting time for each session. You have to know that, for example, in a grammar lesson, in order to not waste too much time, you have to know that in the framework of grammar, you have preparation, you have presentation, you have practice, and you have use. You don't have to waste time in preparation. You don't have to waste time in presentation. You have to waste time in practice because practice is very important. You have to waste time in use because use is very important. So, for example, in teaching present continuous, you're going to just warm up with your pupils 2-3 minutes enough, and then you're going to move to preparation. You're going to prepare your pupils. They're going to listen to a dialogue and try to fill in the gaps. So you're going to write the dialogue briefly, quickly on the board. They're going to write with you at the same time, and you're going to make them listen after 2 minutes of writing, and they're going to fill in the gaps. You're going to fill in the gaps together, of course. And then you're going to start to like you're going to move to presentation. You analyze, you isolate, and you, of course, state the rule quickly. Of course, you make sure your pupils have understood, depending on the level of your pupils. And then you move to practice. In practice, believe me, your pupils are not be able to understand everything in presentation. They are going to understand with practice. So you give 50% in presentation, and they're going to understand while doing activities. So you don't have to waste too much time while presenting, because I saw many teachers like explaining and re-explaining again and again and again without any results. You have to be intelligent while presenting a grammar lesson. You don't have to waste too much time in presentation, but do it in practice or in use. So that's how you manage your time. So another important question is related to the criterion to take into account when correcting a paragraph of a test or an exam. This is very important. This is a very important question. Of course, like some teachers are going to have a look at the paragraph. Yes, approximately 4 out of 6. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to have a list of criteria in front of you in order to be fair. So you have to take into consideration the content of the paragraph. It should not be out of topic. The organization of the paragraph, of course, the introduction, development, and conclusion. The discourse markers are going to organize the paragraph, first, second, third, and so on. Topic, sentence, development, conclusion, introduction, and so on. You're going to take into consideration the verbs. Of course, the verb tense, vital in any piece. You're going to take into consideration the punctuation and capital letter, the spelling mistakes, the word order of the sentences, and even the sentence order, the prepositions, singular, plural aspects, wrong words. They include so many new French words or wrong words, and words missing. You have to take into consideration all this in order to be able to give a mark. And of course, we have for each aspect, we have mark. For example, we have 1.5 for relevance. It means that if your pupil is not out of topic, you're going to give him his 1.5 before talking about details. We have 1.5 for relevance, and we have 2 points for linguistic resources. It involves vocabulary, verb tenses, punctuation and capital letter, spelling mistakes, linking words and sequencers, and so on, discourse markers. So all this included in the linguistic resource out of 2. And we have organization. If their ideas are well organized, we have 1.5 point. And we have in the excellence, we have 1 point for this if they have a very good handwriting, and if they have some creative ideas. If you find that your pupils have actually added some interesting ideas, you're going to add that half, maybe 0.75 or up to 1 point. So this is out of 6. Another question related to the how to manage a class, or how to deal with noisy pupils. Of course, this is really difficult because we have there is a difference between noisy and naughty, and most pupils are naughty nowadays, because we don't have to lie to each other. It's the truth. So I think that this is highly related to the personality of the teacher. If you don't have personality, if your character is just weak, you are not to manage the class. You are able to make your pupils interested in your class. You are not to dominate and handle your class. If you have strong personality, if you know when to punish, where to punish, when do you ask their parents to come, when do you ask them to just an oral warning, when are you going to maybe hit them just with a ruler, not really dangerous hitting, when are you going to ask them to stand at the back of the class, when are you going to cut their copybooks. You have to know that you have some limits, and they have to know that they have some limits. So if each one knows the limit of each other, it's going to be good. Believe me, this is really hard. I know, especially for novice teachers. They don't know how to to deal with their pupils. We have some impolite pupils. Like sometimes you have to identify the intensity of the mistake. If the mistake is really big, it should be punished and well punished. If it's like something that you can not skip, but just you can handle, and you can maybe sue in your way, it's okay. If there is an error which is really slight error, and you just are going to insist on this error to make it big, this is a problem. You have to know, as I said, you have to know when to punish, where to punish, when to put minuses, when to call the administration, when to call their parents, when to ask them to stand at the back of the classroom, when to cut their copybooks, when to not make them see their papers of tests and exams. For example, personally, I have a pupil who is not really good. He's just average pupil, and he knows that he didn't get a good mark, but his copybook is not completed. So I asked him, before I gave the marks of the tests, I asked them all to prepare their copybooks to be completed before I give the marks. They said yes. And when I checked his copybook out, I found it incomplete. So I said, why you didn't complete your copybook? He said, I didn't have time, just rewriting all the lessons. I said, come and I'm going to give you the mark. And then this is the third time he's asking. He didn't complete his copybook yet, and he's asking about the mark. I said, there is no mark until you complete your copybook. And he is really running to complete his copybook, and I said he's not a good pupil. He's just like average people, and all teachers are making are doing their best in order to make him write all the lessons. So this is a good punishment. I didn't hit him. I didn't ask his parents to come. I didn't call the administration. I'm just giving him the right punishment he deserves, because he's really curious about his mark. And I did it with many pupils, not just him. So you have to be intelligent. Teaching requires a lot of intelligence. Thank you so much, my dear followers, for watching this video. I hope it was useful. Thanks for your comments and encouragement. I really appreciate every single word you say. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye.